The first thing that we're going to do is there is a new Hamaguchi interview that dropped this weekend that I would like to talk about. So we're going to read a Hamaguchi interview, go through some highlights of that, and then I'm going to tell you some things about Final Fantasy VII that I've been thinking about lately. So it says, after Final Fantasy VII Revelation's reveal, the trilogy has been selling extremely well. That's great news for us. Director Naoki Hamaguchi on player feedback, the blessing of a heated fandom, and physical games. So if you haven't read this, you probably have read this because I know that y'all are Final Fantasy VII crazies like me. But some really good stuff is in this one. First of all, fans noticed everything that we hoped they would. That's you and me, y'all. We got a little bit of a shout out. First of all, congratulations on announcing Revelation in the finale of Summer Game Fest. How's the response been? Extremely positive. Don't let grifters tell you it was bad. It has been great. After the event, I probably did interviews with more than 30 media outlets across North America and Europe. We know that, as well as interviews in the Chinese media. I think I spent about a week doing interviews non-stop. Even with the previous game, I don't think we received this much attention or this many requests for interviews. So it made me really feel that a huge number of people are paying attention to this last chapter of the trilogy. I'm grateful. Yeah. Was there any particular fan reaction that surprised you or left an impression on you? Well, what pleased me the most was the exact things we were aiming for. While the characters are obviously important, our goal with Revelation's reveal was to create a trailer that would draw attention to the gameplay experience. And I feel like they accomplished that, right? The high wind battling the weapons, the fifth system, the way it adds depth to the combat, all of that is really, really good. So there's that. Also, I was a little surprised, though happy, with the amount of attention Vincent's crossed belts received. So did you notice the crossed belts when Vincent jumps out of the airplane with a parachute? If not, this is it right here. You can watch Vincent right there with that crossed thing. That's pretty rad, right? That's really cool. Hey, thank you so much for the gift sub. Yes, sir. We're on the road to Revelation, baby. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. So Hamaguchi continues, says, from the very first announcement, we wanted to clearly communicate the features and key characteristics that define the appeal of Revelation. In that sense, I feel we've managed to get off to a very strong start this time. Then he gets into the heated fandom discourse, and if any of you have been around Final Fantasy VII fans for like a day, then you know that it can get pretty heated. I mean, we're talking like, sometimes it's fun and in jest, and sometimes it's like, maybe I should move. Maybe I should move homes. Has there been any player feedback that made you think maybe we should incorporate this? Obviously, a project of this scale won't change based on one person's opinion, but I am curious. Well, after this announcement specifically, Hamaguchi says, there wasn't much that made me think we've got to add this. However, I've always closely monitored players' responses throughout the series, and based on feedback from those who played Rebirth, we're making changes in this new game, such as making mini-games skippable and adjusting rewards. We know that, but you know that I love mini-games, so I don't know if that's good news or not for me, but I appreciate him doing things like that, making them skippable and stuff. When I spoke about these improvements in interviews, I was happy to see comments from players saying things, I personally don't care for the minigames, but if that's your reasoning, I'm willing to accept it. Great. It reminded me that if you truly listen to player feedback and try to strike the right balance, people really recognize that, which I think is a really cool thing, right? Like, way to go, Hamaguchi, for modeling active listening, right? Listening to your audience, learning constructively. Now, I don't know if all the criticism was constructively told, but he's leaning into it that way. So he says, when it comes to gameplay and game design, especially playability, I believe we absolutely have to keep listening to players and minimize points of frustration wherever we can. Good. Core story and message we want to tell through this remake are something that we as the creators will remain firm on. I love that. That is not a throwaway sentence right there. The core story and message we want to tell through this remake are something we as the creators will remain firm. That's good. What that tells me is that they have a plan for this series and for this ending. Some have said and wondered, are they making it up as they go? And maybe they are, but I don't think that they're making up the main things. I think that from the very beginning, and I think that we're going to see this in Revelation, that there was an arc that bends toward the story that they are telling, from the whispers all the way to the credit roll in the end. So that's pretty cool to me. I'm really excited to hear that. The core story will remain firm. Yeah. The series tends to generate a tremendous amount of discussion, ain't that the truth? Whether it's about the number of minigames, the story, or even character shipping. I love they included that. How do you feel about that? Hamaguchi does something, he models something for us here that I think that we can all learn from, you know? Something inspirational. Hamaguchi says, how do you feel about the discussion about the minigames, the story, and the shipping? And he says, what? I'm grateful for it. Games are a medium. They're a community, a culture. While a culture has certain unchanging aspects, I believe it only truly shapes into a culture when people discuss it from many different perspectives. If everyone looked at something in exactly the same way, I think it might not leave a lasting impression and could fade into obscurity over time. The very fact that the community is so active, that conversations happen, and that debates keep erupting, that's the kind of entertainment. That's the kind of entertainment in and of itself, and that's true. I have met some of my favorite people online through discussion of this game. I've also met some of my fiercest opponents and enemies. I've met people that wished that my entire bloodline would die out. But I've also met people that I would call friends, that I have not even ever met. They live on the other side of the world, you know? But I think that that's the beauty of this game. You know, I think there's a real beauty that's happened in this community, given all things. And I love that he's modeling that for us. And so he says, if everyone looked at something the exact same way, I think it might not leave a lasting impression and could fade into obscurity over time. Isn't that the truth? The very fact that the community is so active, that conversations happen and debates keep erupting, it is a kind of entertainment. Great statement there. Great statement. And just a challenge to me to say resistance is not conflict. Sometimes that's just the way the community is. And how can I turn my channel and also my discussions in real life into a platform like that Greek-style agora, right? Where everybody comes to the forum and they're able to share their ideas with one another. I think that we isolate that to classrooms, and when it goes online and in our dinner tables and stuff like that, we try to shut it down a little bit more. But good on Hamaguchi for modeling that for it. It's Gucci with me, you know what I'm saying? So, now, this what I thought was a really interesting part of this interview. Previous entries are selling several times better than expected. Since the announcement of Revelation, we've been seeing Remake and Rebirth appear in sales rankings across platforms like Steam. How are they performing? They're doing extremely well. Even before Summer Game Fest, both Remake and Rebirth had been selling steadily. Back when Rebirth was announced, every time it became a hot topic, sales of Remake would rise. Similarly, I'm sure that every time Revelation attracts attention, more people will become interested in Rebirth. Following Summer Games Fest, we saw an enormous response in terms of sales. I can't share specific figures, but sales are several times better than we expected. It is exciting to live in a world where Square Enix's sales expectations are meeting expectations or exceeding them. That's a really cool thing. We haven't lived in that era in a while. It's always like, this failed to meet expectations. Well, maybe lower your expectations. Maybe they did, and maybe we're meeting them. But no, we're also seeing that they are selling a lot of copies of this. So let's carry on a little bit. Some of this is just sales and development, generating buzz, The voices of players are what keep you going. While a typical AAA game tends to take 3 or 4 years to make, we've spent more than 10 years creating 3 games. From a personal standpoint, dedicating more than a decade of your creative career to a single project is a major life decision. That is crazy. 10 years on this saga. I think that's pretty cool. So let's keep going. He talks about maintaining the same team. I thought that was cool, but a lot of people have been saying that. He's also talking about he's in favor of physical editions. Now, one thing that is really interesting to me is this second interview, okay? And here's some things that I want to lift up here. I thought the stuff that he talks about with Maximilian Dude was really interesting. He kind of talks about streamer jealousy community, or sad about not getting the same opportunity. I think that's really interesting. And one thing that I can say about Square Enix, I love what he says here. We have no plans to exclusively work with just one influencer and call them our only official partner influencer. I'm sure the influencer wouldn't want that either. Rather, I'd be personally very happy to maintain good relationships with many different people over the long term. So if the chance arises, we might collaborate with those streamers in the future. One of the cool things about the Final Fantasy VII community is that we are so creatively diverse. There are people that stream and make content. I'm an educator, and I try to use Final Fantasy and Square Enix content to teach in my classes. We have artists, we have musicians, like we're listening to right now, all of these different things. And Square Enix, I think, is doing a really cool job of expanding their horizons to include as many influencers as possible. Not just in the traditional video realm either. So, I don't know, I think it's pretty cool. So there's that. A couple of other things. So here he talks about streamers and content creators a little bit. And he kind of catches a little bit of heat when he said in a recent interview, with RPGs like Final Fantasy, we need to be wary of the possibility that players might be satisfied just by watching live playthroughs. I'm not trying to be dismissive of playthroughs, I'm saying that we need to take that as a challenge and incorporate game elements that would motivate players to actually play the game themselves. Okay, so I'm going to do something that I do in my classes here. That is the text. I've highlighted it. What do you think about that? What is your response to the Gucci when it comes to that? Do you feel satisfied watching the playthroughs, or does it compel you to play on your own? I never was super motivated about watching other people play games that I was already interested in. But sometimes I'll watch a streamer very briefly without spoilers to see if like the vibe of a game is what I kind of want. But I think it's a really interesting thing that he says here. I'd love to hear your comments on that, so just type them in the chat. But I'll kind of go on here as well because he clarifies this. He says, I don't view the fact that my comment became a subject of debate as a negative thing. You gotta love how he always leans positive. That's a really admirable quality. In fact, I saw it as a healthy discussion. As a creator, I sometimes get the impression that streaming culture doesn't mix well with narrative-driven works, especially the kind of RPGs we create. That being said, I'm not trying to say that RPGs and JRPGs will decline simply because people could get satisfied just by watching live streams. This applies to everything in the world, and it's not specifically limited to just entertainment. But I believe that when the environment changes, the things that survive should also change and adapt to it. In that sense, it's important to change and adapt to suit the current era, right? I think that's a pretty good thing. One thing that I do think he kind of is alluding to here is that idea of player agency, right? The idea of like, do your choices in the game matter? Do the solutions to complex problems matter here? Meaning, does it make you feel compelled to try the game out yourself? I think that was the beauty of a game like Tears of the Kingdom. I would watch people on TikTok and Reels come up with these bonkers solutions to dilemmas that I had had in the game, and I'm like, man, that was not mine. I need to try that. And so it's a really cool game is going to create a playground that invites you to play. But if you're just playing a one-to-one sort of linear go from point A to point B story, then you're less likely to really get into that in the same way if you've seen someone else do that. Creating works that generate conversation and engagement is interesting. I think that in some ways you're exactly right. So like if a linear game with not a lot of option generates philosophical discussion, then right on. You know, like let's really get into it. I mean, that's a new level of engagement. It's probably going to make people want to try it. I think it's part of a core part of game design, interactivity. Watching is passive and playing should be active. So if I'm satisfied by watching a game, I think that suggests that the game is missing a core interactive element. I think that's exactly what Hamaguchi is saying here. It's really apt. He said in a few places, he may say in this interview, that side quests and different narrative threads. Oh yeah, he says it right here. We've incorporated a lot of side content where elements ranging from the narrative to strategies will change based on player choices. So even if they're watching a live stream, we wanted to attempt things that would make players think, if it was me, I'd like to do that differently. That's the kind of sentiment I was trying to convey. I think that's pretty cool. He goes on to clarify this. He says, to begin with, the concept of Revelation is that it's the final installment, so we wanted each of the characters to have their own beliefs, resolve, and feelings as they head toward the story's conclusion. On top of that, we felt it would be better if that emotional journey were different for each player. Kind of like I want my Vincent to take on this challenge in this kind of mindset, or I want Cloud to take on this challenge with this kind of mindset. We want each player to experience those feelings in their own way. I really like that. I'm curious what it's going to look like. To me, that's just really, really cool. It gets me excited about the possibilities of multiple playthroughs of Revelation. Unicorn, you say, I've recently taken to a new frame for the remake series. If the OG is a referendum on grief and Advent Children is a referendum on guilt, then remake is the process of therapy. That's really interesting. I like that. Recontextualizing the past to construct a new, healthier future. Yeah, and so that is a really interesting way that this game can be in conversation with that which has come before it. I kind of look at it like a more modern critique or a modern reconception sort of thing. In hindsight, such 2020, right? But it makes me think they've done such a cool job in saying this was the story in 1997, but if we were to really remake and retell it today with today's sensibilities and sensitivities, what would it look like? And, you know, I don't know if you have seen this kind of thing in other media like I have, but we seem to have this obsession with what I call the Robert Frost syndrome. It's two roads diverged in a narrow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. Right? Are you familiar with the Robert Frost poem? Are you familiar with that? Just for kicks and giggles, let's do it. I actually bought this poem, a children's version of this poem for my 5-month-old niece, and I've read it to her. But this is the Robert Frost syndrome that I kind of lay on a lot of media right now, because whether it's Final Fantasy VII or whether it is even like the Avengers, like in game and multiple timelines, or if you saw this show Dark Matter, all of these stories play this game of what if. What if we could go back and things were different, or what if we could change what is inevitable, right? And Robert Frost kind of gets at that, and I love it. It says, two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveler long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that, the passing there had warned them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. And this final stanza is really where I think it really kind of comes to the place of sort of acceptance, which is really one of the themes that I'm seeing in a lot of media right now. He says, I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Now there's two ways of kind of looking at this ending of the poem. I think there's probably a billion ways, right? And the beauty of poetry is that it's ambiguous as a Final Fantasy ending. But here it says, 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. And the question for the reader is, think about your decisions that you've made across your life, those forks in the road, and those forks that made all the difference. And it is up to the reader, the interpreter, to say whether that difference was good or bad, right? We can pinpoint moments in our lives, junction points we might call them, where our lives got back on track or derailed. And the choice you made back then made all the difference. It's the power of agency. It's the power of choice, you know? Prof, talk about the tweet from this morning. Oh, wasn't that a banger tweet, right? Oh my gosh, yes. So I read this tweet this morning and I posted it because it's just the stage of my life that I'm currently in, it turns out. I said, have you ever read a tweet that so perfectly captured the cries of your soul with words that your mouth couldn't yet admit? This comes from someone named Lyra. Here's what this person said. You'll regret it if you get married. You'll regret it if you don't get married. You'll regret it if you have kids, and you'll regret it if you don't. Kierkegaard said this 200 years ago as follows. Whatever you choose, you'll regret it, because the problem isn't in your choices, it's in romanticizing your life. A person always finds an untraveled path alluring and mysterious. That's why the issue isn't making the right choice, it's choosing and deciding which regret you'll live with. In life, we must choose our regret. Shoot. You want to talk about a truth bomb? In life, our choices are about choosing what we're going to regret. I sometimes tell my students, in life, we're told we can be absolutely anything from a young age, and that's true, depending on aptitude and talent and opportunity and stuff. But you can pretty much steer your life in the way you want it to go. But here's the thing. You can also begin to narrow your choices. When you choose a major, you're saying yes to this possibility of outcomes, this set of outcomes, and you're saying an inevitable no, or at least a not now or not yet, to every other option. It's the same thing when you get married. For most people in monogamous relationships, they say yes to one person, and that yes is an inevitable no to every other person, right? So there's a narrowing of choice, and yet somehow in the narrowing and honing in of choice, that's where we find our greatest satisfaction. It's not that the world is our oyster when we can choose all of the oysters in the world and all the pearls in the world. It's when we hone in and we say, this pearl is the pearl of great price, and this is the one I'm going for. This is the one that I'm leveraging my life on, and I am risking all other options on. Smith, you mentioned the Odyssey a second ago. One of the things that really struck me about the Odyssey this time, and I've taught the Odyssey in class, in literature classes in previous semesters, but one of the things that really caught me, and it's probably because of the stage of life that I'm in right now. Y'all are getting a lecture. I don't know if y'all are hearing this, but somebody needs to redeem that because we're kind of doing this right now. One of the things that struck me about the Odyssey this time, experiencing it, was Calypso. Calypso, if you don't know, has imprisoned and entrapped Odysseus on this island where he's essentially living in limbo for 7 years. She feeds him this particular lotus blossom, and when he consumes it, he loses memory of his wife and his kid and his desire to go back home and his shipmates and crew and all that stuff. He just forgets about all of those things. And Calypso kind of has him in this satisfying, fulfilling days. But that distraction of Calypso prevents him from having the direction in his life. And what it reminded me of is that sometimes Calypso is a job that we're a little too comfortable in, and we're no longer stretching and striving and directing our lives. We're distracted by the comfort and the familiarity of it. That's a personal sort of thing for me. Sometimes we are distracted by the complacency, and we don't move forward. We don't go forward in our lives. And I think that that's things that we're learning in the Final Fantasy VII Remake series. It is this idea that in order to determine your destiny, you have to make some choice. And when you know what the potential outcomes are, how are you going to choose, right? How are you going to impact the things that you can impact, right? Fun fact, Calypso, I Will Conceal, and Apocalypse, Revelation, have the same root. That's true. Apocalypse, Apocalypso, Calypso. Yeah. Oh, that's a great point, Smith. So, I will conceal, I will reveal. Boy, I need to make a video essay on that one, Smith. I'm gonna quote the heck out of you there. Calypso, I will conceal. Apocalypse, I will reveal. Or there will be a revelation. That's sick. And so it strikes me that like maybe in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I mean, what does Sephiroth say at the end? Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I mean, this is good. At the end, what does Sephiroth say to Cloud? Those with clouded eyes will never see the truth. And right there, the reality of the situation for Cloud Strife is completely concealed. It's hidden from him, right? And why are we moving toward apocalypsis, revelation? Because all that is concealed will be revealed. Whoo, I got chills. That's beautiful. That is just lovely. That's lovely. That just sits like honey on the tongue. That's good. We got a little bit more with this interview.